Blog Talk Radio.
Hey sports fans, time to take your seat in the stands. For the next hour, it's A Kind Voice on Sports with your host, Demetrius Means. He'll have insights, interviews, and more. And now, your half-court, 50-yard line seat for sports, Demetrius Means.
And thank you very much, and welcome to A Kind Voice on Sports. This is your host, Demetrius Means, and as always, folks, I have a special guest with me today, and I like to call him the Doctor of Athletics. He is Dr. Wood Selig. He is the athletic director over at Old Dominion University, and in 3 years, he has transformed the future of Old Dominion Monarchs athletics, spearheading the university's move to Conference USA this year and the transition of football program to the FBS level. Dr. Wood Selig, I appreciate you joining me here on A Kind Voice on Sports. I am really thankful that you were able to take time out for us today. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Demetrius. Good to talk to you again.
Absolutely. You know, I had an opportunity to do some sideline reporting for Old Dominion from 2009 to 2011. And the first thing that I noticed about you, Dr. Wood, when I met you was you're a guy who was full of energy and passion. And when I interviewed you on that football field, I felt a lot of energy coming from you. Is that what you have to run a big program like Old Dominion?
Yeah, I think that's pretty important because it's a 24/7 kind of job, and a lot of people ask, you work in college athletics or you work in higher education, do you get the summers off? And I have to chuckle when I get that question because in many instances, summers are our busiest time of year because we're getting ready for the next 9 months of competition and school. So summers are pretty busy, but you do have to have a lot of energy, just like you have to have in a lot of professions to be successful.
Absolutely. You hit the ground running in 2010, implementing a new strategic plan for the department, upgrading the athletic facilities and directing fundraising projects for a new basketball practice facility and an indoor hitting center for baseball. Have you had a chance yet to catch your breath?
It's been pretty fast and furious, but I think that's part of what really makes this job exciting and so rewarding because of the projects that you mentioned. We have about a $750,000 indoor baseball hitting facility that's privately funded, and we'll start that project as soon as this baseball season ends. And given the winter that we've had around here, we wish, unfortunately, that we'd started it last summer because it would have been invaluable. But I tell you, our baseball team has an RPI in the top 30. There are about 300 baseball programs, so that puts ODU baseball in the top 10% competitively. And academically, we had 10 of our student-athletes earn Dean's List, so that's about a third of our team had a 3.4 or better. So baseball is doing well, and they'll be rewarded with a privately funded indoor hitting complex that should be complete in time for this fall when they return for the fall semester of the 2014-15 academic year. And then we're making great strides on the basketball practice facility that you mentioned. That is another privately funded athletic facility worth about $8.5 million, and we're just about $2 million short of our fundraising goal to complete that project, and we've put that project out for bid on the strength of our fundraising. So that is on the streets, and we're entertaining architectural bids for that indoor basketball practice facility. Look forward to having that complete in the next couple years.
Boy, ODU seems to be clicking on all cylinders since you arrived on January 1st, 2010. And before I get back into more ODU stuff, I want to take a step back. Before coming to ODU, you spent 11 years directing athletics at Western Kentucky University, the Hilltopper program, which won 70 Sun Belt Conference championships from 2000 to 2010 and a national record 19 crowns during the 2008 through 2010 seasons. How proud were you of that, Dr. Wood, and how much did that help prepare you becoming the athletic director at Old Dominion?
Well, it was a pretty neat period in time for WKU athletics, and we were really dominating the Sun Belt Conference on an annual basis, winning on average about 7 conference championships each year. So, roughly 50% of our teams were winning conference championships every year, which is a remarkable achievement, and it just speaks to the quality of the coaches and the student athletes at WKU. So I was fortunate to be there at the right place at the right time, as they say. We also, at that point in time, transitioned our football program at Western Kentucky. It was 1AA or FCS, and we transitioned into the Sun Belt Conference in football to the FBS or 1A level. So we're ironically doing the same thing here at Old Dominion. So it actually mirrors what we're going through now with our football and conference transition, and hopefully the few things that I learned when I was at Western Kentucky, I can impart that wisdom here at Old Dominion and hopefully help us with a successful transition to FBS football and Conference USA.
And before coming to Old Dominion, there was no doubt you were a key figure in guiding Western Kentucky University football's program's move to the NCAA Division 1AA, as you just mentioned, to 1A in 2007, and then you spearheaded more than $100 million in contract money and renovations for facilities. First of all, I've got to ask you, where do you start when you're trying to get all that kind of money?
Well, you go to your deepest pockets, both your corporate partners as well as your individual donors. And it takes a lot of work, takes a lot of strong partnerships and relationships to generate that kind of revenue and support. But it's very important because, when you're recruiting a high school student athlete today, as we like to say, they buy with their eyes. So if you don't have the newest and the nicest, they're going to look somewhere else to see how you stack up and compare with the competition. So we always prided ourselves in having maybe not the largest facility in the country or in our conference, but we wanted to have the nicest. And it didn't have to be the newest, but it had to be renovated and up to date and really stand that eye test with your prospective student athletes. So we were very fortunate that we were able to just about transform almost every of our athletic facilities at Western Kentucky in some shape or form, from where it was when I started to certainly where it was when I left. Most notably, the football stadium at Western Kentucky got a huge facelift. It was one of those old-time football stadiums with one side, and then the other side was just completely barren. And you just kept looking at it wondering, okay, well, is the second side on back order? When does it arrive? And it was just the way it was designed, the way it was built. So we were able to fill in the end zone and connect it to the other side, develop a 12,000, 15,000 square foot weight room, add a brand new home locker room. It really turned out tremendously. So similarly, we're looking at doing a new football stadium here at Old Dominion. So in just a few years, we'll be turning our focus on a waterfront Elizabeth River football stadium that will be one of the unique football facilities in the country.
You talk about, when we started this show, I called you the doctor of athletics. And I said that for a reason, because you are such a busy guy, and when you have a goal, you shoot right for it. In fact, before you even got the job at Old Dominion, I want to read something that President John Broderick said. He said Dr. Selig, in his experience, is a strong fundraiser along with his personnel and business leadership abilities, background in sales and marketing, made him a solid choice for our search committee. First of all, what does that mean to you?
Well, certainly when you hear your boss talking about you like that, it makes you feel appreciated and certainly pleased that that's the way he or she feels in you. I worked hard to hopefully put myself in position to have success both at Western Kentucky, and then that helped me get the Old Dominion job. And, Old Dominion is a university. I grew up about 5 blocks down the street from the Old Dominion campus. And growing up, Old Dominion was very much a commuter school, maybe one dormitory, and, was really an urban institution, our metropolitan institution. And so, we when I left to go away to college, I went and got into this field of college athletics, Old Dominion was not really an institution that I had even envisioned ever working with. But when Jim Jarrett retired, he'd been our athletic director here for 40 years and did a great job starting football, winning 32 national championships under his watch, and developing a true model program with great financial support and financial stability. When he decided to retire, a few people contacted me and said, hey, that's your hometown. You ought to think about Old Dominion. And my first thought was, I know all about Old Dominion. That's just not one. That's not a school of interest to me. They said, this is not your dad's Old Dominion anymore. This place is rocking. And I looked into it, and sure enough, I arrived on campus, and I didn't even recognize it with all the new dorms. And now 33% of our students live on campus, and we've transformed ourselves from a commuter college to a residential university. And there's 69 master's degrees and 42 doctoral degrees. So we've become a major research institution that's a significant player in Hampton Roads. It was not the same Old Dominion College when I was growing up. So all of a sudden this job had great interest and great attraction for me, regardless of the fact that it happened to be 4 or 5 blocks from where I grew up. So John Broderick, who made those kind comments about me, was certainly an individual whom I looked up to for having the leadership and the vision to direct us toward our future, and it's been great ever since I arrived in 2010.
You're listening to A Kind Voice on Sports with your host, Demetrius Means. I am talking with Dr. Camden Wood Selig, Old Dominion University, the athletic director. Dr. Wood, you did something that I really enjoyed about Old Dominion. In 2012 and 2013, under your leadership, it was a great year also by you defining the athletics department's theme, championship effort on the field of competition and in the classroom. It's one thing to do well on the football field, the baseball field, but it's another thing when you see student-athletes doing well in the classroom.
Yeah, I think too many times you read about the schools whose programs are in academic trouble and they might even be penalized and not be eligible for NCAA postseason play. That's certainly never a place that we want to be, and we strive to have as much competition among our student athletes academically as we do athletically. So it's a high priority because, as the NCAA commercial says, few of these individuals will go pro after their playing days are over. So they're going to go pro in something other than sports, and we would certainly like that to be the model here at Old Dominion. It's very important that our students are students first, athletes second, and we've been able to recruit outstanding high school students, which is first and foremost. We've got a great support network with our academic advisors, and our faculty at Old Dominion do a great job in assisting our student athletes toward their degrees. So we've had a good history of academic success, and we've been able to build upon that.
You're listening to A Kind Voice on Sports with your host, Demetrius Means. I am talking with Dr. Camden Wood Selig of Old Dominion University, the athletic director. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we will touch a little bit more on how the students are doing in the classroom at Old Dominion. They're doing pretty good. We'll talk about that more after we take this time out. You're listening to A Kind Voice on Sports with your host, Demetrius Means.
My name is Claire Bloom, and I started a 100% volunteer nonprofit organization in October 2011 to put food in the hands of local children who have little to nothing to eat for the 68 hours between the free lunch they get in school on Friday and the free breakfast they get in school on Monday. I call the organization End 68 Hours of Hunger, and our vision is to end childhood hunger in America one school at a time. We start programs wherever we have 2 volunteers in the community who are prepared to step up and take responsibility for running the program, and we grow from there. Today, we're feeding 900 children each weekend in 29 communities, and we're growing. If you're interested in starting a program in your community, please visit our website at www.end68hoursofhunger.org and click on the tab at the top of the page that says FAQ. Everything you need to know about starting a program is there, including videos on how to talk with groups, how to set up your space, and even what kind of food to include in the bags. Email me at end68hoursofhunger@gmail.com, and thanks.
He went without food, not to lose weight, but to help people lose generations of hate. While many around him rose up with violence, he sat down for peace. When others used religion as an excuse for war, he used it to remind them of love. Mahatma Gandhi made the world a far better place by reaching out with the strength he cultivated within his soul. So, pass it on from the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
Kind Voice Radio.
And thank you very much to A Kind Voice on Sports. This is your host, Demetrius Means. I am talking with Dr. Kendall Wood Selig, the ODU Athletic Director, again at Old Dominion University. And Dr. Wood, Old Dominion finished the 2012-2013 year ranked 101 out of 346 NCAA Division I programs in the Learfield Cup Division I standings, ahead of all the CAA teams and the second among returning members of the Conference USA. What does that mean to you?
Well, I think that's a point of relative comparison. And, you know, we're probably never going to be a top 10, top 20 in the Learfield Cup. The Learfield Cup measures every program that you offer compared to all the other schools in that particular sport and how you do nationally against all the other schools who are fielding teams in that sport. So it's football comparison, basketball comparison, baseball comparison, soccer, swimming, and what it does is it rewards those teams who go to postseason play, and you earn points for how far you go in postseason play, and then it basically puts together standings of the relative strength of a program, top to bottom, every single sport across the country. So for us to finish number 1 in the CAA and 2 in a conference that's a real beast nationally, even before we have competed in Conference USA, it kind of gave us some reassurance that even though we were moving to a new conference and moving up in football to FBS, that we felt like, you know, in relative strength, we compared favorably with the schools with whom we would be competing. So it also says that across the board, Old Dominion Athletics doesn't just support, say, 1 or 2 programs. We pride ourselves in being nationally competitive in every sport that we field and every sport that we offer.
Not only that, Dr. Wood, you've heard the horror stories. You heard about kids going to college, playing sports. Some graduate without knowing how to read. We've heard all those horror stories. But one of the great things that's going on at Old Dominion University, over half of ODU's 450 student athletes earned a 3.0 or better during the 2012 fall semester, and 5% of all Old Dominion student athletes earn a perfect 4.0 in the spring of 2013. In this day and time, you don't hear much about things like that. That has to be a credit to the university, to the student athlete, as well as the professors at Old Dominion.
Yes, it really is a culture of academic success, and one of the neat things that we do is at Old Dominion we we save a men's basketball halftime every winter, and we recognize our student athletes who were a 3.0 or better, and as you said, 50%. So we've got 450 student athletes. So 225 have a 3.0 or better. Also, we have a third of our student athletes have a 3.4. That's Dean's List. So a third of our student athletes are 3.4 or better. We bring all those student athletes and our 4.0 student athletes, we bring them out on the floor, and the line is so long with athletes that we have 2 lines from baseline to baseline, double rows, with all of our student athletes who are being recognized academically. So that's one of the most rewarding halftime activities that we do, but I think it reinforces the message of how important academics truly are at Old Dominion. And I think it's really nice for our student athletes to have the fans at the game recognize them for their academic accomplishments, because we can all read about our athletic accomplishments and how we're doing, or we can follow it on radio or TV, but a lot of times some of the better stories are the ones that you don't get to hear much about, and certainly the academic story that we have, I think, is well worth telling. So that's one way we can tell it ourselves during a men's basketball halftime.
We obviously know about the things that must go on in the classroom. We also hear about and we know about how things are going on the football field, the basketball field, the baseball field, in athletics in general. But, Dr. Wood, I don't think that people tend to realize how much your position as an athletic director means to Old Dominion University or athletic directors, period. You have a job that is a tough job. You've got to be a salesman, and you've got to have great working relationships. You have to raise money. When you look to raise money, you got to start with a vision. So what's your vision for Old Dominion athletics?
Well, when I worked at UVA, I had a basketball coach who later became our athletic director, and I worked with him in both capacities. And one of his favorite sayings was, when you talk about a husband and a wife, he said, behind every successful man, there's a wife who makes it necessary. And, the way I feel about college athletics, behind every successful athletic director, there's a group of coaches who make it necessary. So, my motivation is to provide our coaches and therefore all of our student athletes with all the resources I possibly can to allow them to compete successfully. And my goal is to take away every reason for why we can't win and why we can't graduate student athletes. So if that's a financial consideration, if it's a facility consideration, if it's a recruiting issue, I want to make sure I'm there to support our coaches in every possible way, and therefore our student athletes and programs, and take away any reason for why we can't be among the best in our conference. So we start off with our goal that we publicize to our coaches and student athletes, that we want to finish consistently in the upper quartile of our conference in every single sport that we field. So Conference USA this year has 16 schools. So therefore, we would want to finish 1, 2, 3, or 4 within Conference USA in every sport that we field. Now, we know that's not going to happen every single year, but consistently, that's where we would like to be, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And that's the same goal that we have academically. We would like to finish in the upper quartile of all Conference USA schools with APR, graduation rates, students with a 3.0 or better, and those are very measurable. You can measure your academic success, your athletic success, our fundraising. We want to grow our fundraising, our revenue generated from tickets and private gifts, corporate support. We want to average 10% growth per year over the next 5 years. So very aggressive goals, but they're stated in our strategic plan. They're reinforced when we meet each month as a group. We report how we're doing in those areas. So there's no uncertainty as to what the expectations are among our student athletes, our coaches, our administration, and our fans. So we want to set aggressive goals, and therefore, if we're hitting them, that's great. It's cause for celebration. If it's not, then we need to evaluate, why are we not doing that, and what can we do to make sure that we can hit that goal on a consistent basis.
You mentioned a word that's very important to many colleges across the country, fundraising. In 2012 and in 2013, Old Dominion Athletic Foundation achieved another record-setting year with donations and its members. Over $4 million raised in donations to the annual fund. That is a nice big-time fundraising. And how much work is that's involved?
Well, that's the lifeblood of our program, because our budget is probably about $34 million, and the money that we raise from our Old Dominion Athletic Foundation provides truly the margin of excellence. It helps support our athletic scholarships. We provide almost $8 million in athletic scholarships to our 450 student athletes. So, the Old Dominion Foundation is critical to our overall financial success, and to be operating at over $4 million annually. Since we started football, or announced that we were starting football in 2006, then we played our first game in 2009, but in 2006 we were generating about $1.3 million, and now we're over $4 million a year. And a large part of that growth is attributable to the start of football, priority seating in football, and the buy-in of our community to support ODU football at the highest level.
You're hearing so much nowadays. You heard a couple of weeks ago the talk of unionize in college. Your thoughts about that? Does that hurt colleges if this should come to fruition, or is that something that shouldn't even be part of the college experience?
I don't think it's part of the college experience. I don't think it belongs in college athletics. Philosophically, I disagree with that. I think the student athletes at Northwestern were railroaded into a line of thinking by some outsiders who convinced them that if they were unionized, that they would have better situations financially, they'd be supported at a higher level personally, and it would be nothing but roses for those student athletes. I think now, as they've started to really analyze the values and the benefits of unionization, you're going to Northwestern and you're, quote, a paid employee, so now you're going to get a tax bill on $60,000, $70,000 annually of the value of your scholarship. So now what was a free ride at Northwestern could cost you as much as $20,000, $25,000 cash a year. I don't think any of them ever thought of that. Plus, as a member of a union and being an employee, let's say you drop a key pass against Michigan and you lose the game. Well, maybe your coach says, you know what? You don't have what it takes to be a football player here. See you later. You're gone. So there's so many negatives that go into being a member of a union that I don't think the student athletes gave all that much thought. And I think now, as they are looking into it and, quote, peeling the onion back, I think they're starting to realize, we got it pretty good. We're getting, $50,000, $60,000 a year education. We're coming out of here with no bills. You stay 5 years, you're talking about $300,000 education, where students are going into huge debt who are not athletes, not on scholarship, to pay for that, and are going to take years, if not a decade, to pay that off. And they're coming out of school with no debt, a Northwestern diploma, and yet people are saying they've been used, or that they've been taken advantage of. gosh, if that's the case, I wish someone would have taken advantage of me at Northwestern or Stanford or Duke or some other institution like that.
You're listening to A Kind Voice on Sports with your host, Demetrius Means. I am talking with Dr. Camden Wood Selig, the athletic director at Old Dominion University. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to touch on the argument that coaches make so much money nowadays and the university offer these kids talents, and should these college players get a stipend? We'll get Dr. Selig's thoughts about that after we'll take a break and listen to A Kind Voice on Sports. We'll be right back after we pause for the cause.
Your sister has a birthday, she's 39 again. Get her something special, she's your best friend. Your father is retiring after all these years. Show him just how proud you are in front of all his peers. Let us write you a song. They'll hear a kind voice and they'll want to sing along. Let us write you a song. It's coming from the heart and that can never be wrong. Your friend is gonna graduate, she finally made it through. Why don't you give her something special now? It's such a sweet thing to do. If your anniversary's coming up for you and your bride, let her know what it means to you to have her there by your side. Let us write you a song. They'll hear a kind voice and they want to sing along. Let us write you a song. It's coming from the heart and that can never be wrong.
Be it a birth or birthday, a wedding or wedding anniversary, to celebrate a coworker's years of service or to honor a dear friend, we'll create the perfect song for your special person or occasion. For more information, please visit the Song Request tab at akindvoice.org and we'll get started.
Let us write you a song. They'll hear a kind voice and they'll want to sing along. Let us write you a song. It's coming from the heart and that can never be wrong. Let us write you a song.
And now back to A Kind Voice on Sports with Demetrius Means.
And thank you very much, and welcome back to A Kind Voice on Sports. This is your host, Demetrius Means. I am talking with Dr. Camden Wood Selig, the athletic director at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. And Dr. Wood, before we went to the break, I brought up the fact that there has been many arguments about coaches today making so much money in salary, the university bringing in so much income. And a lot of the talk is, why should not college athletes be paid a stipend or some kind of money? Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I think, the term that you hear is not paying athletes for play, but covering the full cost of attendance for a student athlete to attend that university. So what that means is, let's say they're on a full scholarship. So they're getting room, board, books, tuition, and fees. That's what's being covered by the university. But it doesn't cover their transportation to and from school at the beginning of this year or the end of the year or over the holidays. It doesn't cover any kind of financial support for general expenses that they may incur as a student, whether it's to do laundry or to buy anything beyond books and meals. So the cost typically that's been associated with the full cost of attendance that is not covered by a full scholarship is on average about $2,500 per student athlete. So, for example, at Old Dominion, we roughly have 450 student athletes, and that equates to about 250 student-athletes on full scholarship. So if we were to cover the full cost of attendance for all of our student-athletes, 18 sports, you figure $2,500 times 250 student-athletes. So it could be an additional $750,000 for that if you don't take into account need-based aid. So the argument right now is, do you just blanketly cover student-athletes' full cost of attendance, or do you keep in mind those students who have the financial wherewithal to perhaps pay that additional $2,500 versus those student-athletes who might be on a Pell Grant or who truly need that to survive throughout the year during their career each year at a university. So that's the debate that's going on, and you can't get anyone to agree, whether you're in the Big Ten or the SEC, ACC, Conference USA, Big East. No one can seem to agree on what the numbers should be. Should it be the same across every institution? Should it be different on every institution? Should it even be covered? Should it be need-based to have a component based on need, or should it be need-based blind and just give everyone the same amount? Do you just do it for football and basketball? What are the Title IX ramifications if you do something like that? Do you have a policy that's within each conference and every school has to abide by that policy within the conference, or do you allow institutional individuality where they're going to do what they feel is best? So we have a mess on our hands right now with this conversation, and no one seems to know where it's going to go. But I think we all agree that we need to be doing better by our student-athletes. So that's the positive takeaway. Now we have to figure out what the definition of let's do better by our student-athletes, because as you alluded to, there's so much money now coming in to college athletics. When you look at the TV contract that we're in, the men's basketball TV contract, I believe, averages like $770 million a year to the NCAA. The new football playoff at the FBS level is going to average like $660 million to college athletics, so annually. So you add those two up, and now all of a sudden you have about $1.2, $1.3 billion coming into college athletics from those two revenue streams, and you've got a lot of money, and now you have athletes who are saying, you know what, God, there is so much money coming into this enterprise. Maybe it's time to take a look at how we are treated, and perhaps we can be treated a little bit better financially and have our full cost of attendance covered. And then you look at the video games and the EA Sports and the lawsuit that's going on there with the O'Bannon case, where universities are profiting off the likeness of their student-athletes in these video games, and the student-athlete just kind of sits there and says, wow, that's nice, but there's no value, no benefit in that for me. So I think college athletics is at a true crossroads. There's so much revenue coming in, and the student-athletes are generating the lion's share of it. The coaches are now getting their share, and now the student-athletes, I believe, are starting to wake up and say, gosh, this is a different day, a different era. Maybe we should be getting more support than we have been.
And on top of that, your coaches have to do a good job, and they've also got to be good salesmen. I want to talk about a few of your coaches for a minute and get your thoughts. You got Karen Barefoot, who came back to Old Dominion. In fact, she started coaching at the age of 22. She now has a new 5-year deal, which was granted to her on August 13th. And in her second season, they went 9-3. It's the best start since the 1998-99 season. Karen comes with lots of energy, positive energy, and she really seems to have the girls' basketball program right back on track. Your thoughts about her?
Yeah, Karen's done a great job. She's from Newport News, Virginia, so she brings a family and a fan base with her that's ready-made. She had great success as the head coach at Elon. She'd been at the apprentice school and had very good success there. She was an assistant for us when we went to a Sweet 16. So she knew how to sell Old Dominion. She knew how to run a program at a very high level. So for us, it was a no-brainer. You know, you get a high-energy young lady like Karen Barefoot back to your program, who's going to really capture the attention of the local community and help restore some of the fan base that had been lost, help restore some of the academic sustainability and integrity that had been compromised, and also put us back into competitive situations where we're performing at a higher level and have a chance to return to the NCAA. And she's done everything we've asked of her, and we improved this year with a very difficult non-conference schedule, and that's going to be a trademark, a hallmark of our Lady Monarch basketball. And we're just really, really fortunate to have Karen Barefoot as our head women's basketball coach, and she continues to recruit well and has a dynamic staff, and we're very lucky and really like the future for Old Dominion women's basketball in Conference USA. And it's a deep women's basketball conference. There are 32 conferences, Division I in the country, and Conference USA's RPI, which is a measure of strength relative to all 32 conferences. The Conference USA RPI was somewhere around 8, 9, 10, so we're in the upper third of the 32 Division I women's basketball conferences. So when you're going to compete at the top of Conference USA, you're going to compete in the top of women's basketball across the country.
And there's no question about it. Head football coach Bobby Wilder came to Old Dominion February 13th, 2007. In fact, that was the year I started the sideline reporting. And he came from Maine, and he had the best startup program ever. In 2009, they went 9-2. 2010, they went 8-3. 2011, 10-3. 2012, 11-2. And then 13, 8-4, and into the USA Conference. Bobby Wilder has a presence about himself that really makes him not only a good coach, a good salesman, but when he came on board in 2007, he was kind of on the shelf in terms of coaching, not coaching at all, but he was putting everything together behind the scenes, and that's the reason why Old Dominion has been successful up until this point. Your thoughts about Bobby?
Yes, if Bobby was an author, he would be a best-selling author of a best-selling novel, because what he has helped create here at Old Dominion is a masterpiece. And you know, I tell you, it's never been done better. It's never. I don't know if it's going to be duplicated. You know, we've sold out every game we've ever played. In our first 5 years, we have 14,500 season ticket holders, a waiting list to buy season tickets. He's in many ways the face not just of ODU football, but Old Dominion University, and that's no slight on any other individuals at Old Dominion. It's just the way the media and the spotlight shines sometimes on certain figures on college campuses. And, you know, Bobby Wilder is a figure and an individual who gets a lot of media attention and handles it extremely well, very positive in the community. When we started ODU football, before we played our first game, he was averaging his first couple years one speaking presentation a day for about 450 days in a row. So he hit the community and would go speak, whether you were 2 people getting together for coffee or 250 people getting together for a banquet. He was the number one sought-after speaker to sell what was really a dream. I mean, we didn't have a logo, we didn't have a team, we didn't have a schedule. It was just a dream that we're going to start football and let's try and start it with success. And he made all the right moves, from the staff he hired to the student athletes he recruited to the schedule that he put together. Everything was done masterfully, and we've had about every school who has started football after 2009 has sent an army of individuals to our campus for multiple days to basically sit down and pick the brains of Bobby Wilder and our other administrators who helped launch ODU football so successfully.
You're listening to A Kind Voice on Sports with your host, Demetrius Means. I am talking with Dr. Camden Wood Selig, the athletic director at Old Dominion University. And Dr. Wood, this is no respect to the other coaches. They do a fine job, and I have a couple more that I want to discuss. But when you get a guy who is high profile, like a coach Bobby Wilder, not only is he a good coach and his program has been successful up until this point, he's a good salesman. How will Old Dominion be able to keep him there? Because, you know, as the football program grows and progresses and continues to win, other colleges are going to come running after him. So how do you keep somebody like Bobby Wilder at Old Dominion?
Yeah, you know, we may not be able to do that because at some point we're going to get to the peak of what we can provide any individual financially because we just don't have the wherewithal, the means to go beyond that. And there are certainly other schools around the country and bigger conferences with bigger pockets than us. So that day may in fact come. But if it does arrive, I know that we'll be in great shape. We'll have tremendous support from the community, and we'll be a very attractive program for a coach to follow Coach Wilder. Now, I would love to think that we're going to continue to stretch and do everything we financially possibly can to retain Coach Wilder for the rest of his career. And, you know, he might not be an individual who's after the largest paycheck in the country. He might be a coach who really does have loyalty and says, you know what, just treat me fair relative to where we are and relative to our competition, and that's fine with me. I'm okay with that. And there are people like that in this business. They're far and few in between, but there are a few of those individuals in the business like that. And you know, I think Bobby, if you look at his track record of employment, he played at Maine, went away to Boston College for a few years, and then went back to Maine as a coach for 16, 17 years. And now, you know, he's been here for 5 seasons and started 2 seasons in advance of that. So he does have a track record of staying for a while where he has been. So hopefully we'll continue to grow together. And I think it's a pretty unique situation to grow a program like Old Dominion. You don't get a chance to do that. It's like being a part of a startup business or a startup corporation, and your fingerprints are all over the blueprint and the plan for that corporation. He has a chance that's totally different, totally unique from most any other coaching job in America. And he does value that and does value being part of the building of such a successful program like ODU.
You are listening to A Kind Voice on Sports with your host, Demetrius Means. I am talking with Dr. Camden Wood Selig, the athletic director at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we will touch on 2 more coaches at Old Dominion. We'll talk about Chris Thinwood, the men's baseball coach, and we'll talk about Jeff Jones, who coaches the basketball team, who took over for Blaine Taylor. You listen to A Kind Voice on Sports. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more with Dr. Wood Selig right after this timeout.
Hi. We're not sorry we missed you. Your call really isn't that important to us. But if you leave your name, number, and a brief message, a computer will record your voice, and a tiny red light on our phone will flash until we cover it with a piece of tape. Bye now.
What are you really saying to the customer who can't reach a real person? Help your business rediscover the lost art of human interaction with Ruby Receptionists, the virtual receptionist that does what no voice machine or ordinary answering service could ever do. From our offices in Portland, Oregon, Ruby handles all your calls with the perfect mix of friendliness and professionalism, making your customers feel special while making you look good, just like a full-time receptionist at a fraction of the cost. Try Ruby free for 14 days. Visit callruby.com, or better yet, call us, 866-611-RUBY.
And now back to A Kind Voice on Sports with Demetrius Means.
And thank you very much, and welcome back to A Kind Voice on Sports. This is your host, Demetrius Means. I am talking with Dr. Camden Wood Selig, the athletic director at Old Dominion University. I've got so much more to get in. I don't know if we were going to have time, Dr. Wood, but all the sports at Old Dominion is doing well. And I wanted to talk about Chris Finwood, the head men's baseball coach. I mean, he's beginning his third season. 2013, they won 30 ball games. And right now, he has actually turned this baseball program around, and he seems to be the right fit for Old Dominion University.
Well, like Karen Barefoot, he's another local homegrown product. Grew up over in Hampton and went to VMI and started at shortstop for 4 years at VMI and was inducted into the VMI Athletic Hall of Fame. He had been an assistant coach at VCU, an assistant at Auburn, and they played pretty good baseball in the SEC. And when I was the athletic director at Western Kentucky, we were fortunate enough to hire Coach Finwood at WKU, and he took us to several NCAA championships. We had great success under his leadership, both academically and competitively. So when our position was opened, and knowing that we worked together so well at Western Kentucky, and knowing that he was from this area, he was my first call, and everything worked out extremely well. And he's now in his third year as the head baseball coach at Old Dominion. And as I said earlier, when you look at our RPI, our fielding percentage is ranked number 12th in the country, so prides himself on defense first, being a shortstop in college himself. Our pitching is really turning around under Coach Tim Levine, who pitched at the University of Virginia very successfully and had a 10-year professional baseball career, and is from Cox High School in Virginia Beach. So he hired a really good staff. We're hitting the ball extremely well, playing a very strong schedule, and this year we're having our best year ever, which is great because it's our first year in Conference USA, and we're in the upper half of Conference USA, which is a multi-bid NCAA conference. And our RPI is probably in the top 30 of the country out of 300 baseball teams. So we're now in the top 10% of all of college baseball, given the fact that there are about 300 Division I baseball teams. So Chris has done a remarkable job getting ODU back to the days when we were going to the NCAA and a national contender, being ranked in the top 25 on a regular basis.
For the men's basketball team, you had to replace Blaine Taylor with Coach Jeff Jones, and Jeff Jones comes in. The basketball team has not won many, or hasn't been as successful as you would like them have to, but Jeff Jones is a guy that came in under you, and normally when coaches come in, Dr. Wood, it takes them at least a 3-year plan to implement their program and also their players. How do you think Jeff will do the following year? And is that true that you got to give a coach at least 3 years before they can start implementing some of the things that they want to do?
I don't know if there's a rule on how many years you need to give a coach. I think you have to take each circumstance individually. But Jeff and his staff far exceeded expectations, because this was Jeff's. This was the first year at Old Dominion, and last year Old Dominion basketball was 5-25, and this year we were 18-18. So we had a 13-win improvement in his first year, with much of the same, if not less, of a team that returned from the year before, with some graduation of some seniors. So a 13-game improvement marked the second or third best Division I turnaround in college athletics. There are 350 Division I basketball programs, so we were number 2 or 3 as far as turnaround programs this past year. So Coach Jones and his staff did a great job and are recruiting extremely well. And he's just a tremendous coach, really stresses defense and is very attention to detail, great game plan, and really fortunate to have Jeff. Jeff played at the University of Virginia, played on a Final Four team, coached at UVA, and as a head coach in 8 years at UVA, took 5 teams to the NCAA tournament. and they haven't had that kind of success since Coach Jones departed UVA. And then we were able to lure Jeff from American University, where he was the all-time winningest coach at American University with the likes of Gary Williams and some other outstanding coaches there. So I think Jeff wanted another shot at a high-level program such as Conference USA, with a program that was highly supported with regard to facilities. He knew we were going to build a basketball practice facility. The Ted Constant Center is really one of the best basketball venues in the country as far as home court advantage. He knew that, and he knew he'd get the support of the community. We get great community support at our basketball games. So he felt like this was a really good move at a great time, and I think he's going to really, really exceed all expectations.
Obviously, all your coaches have done a fantastic job, and they have been rewarded with 5-year deals. Why 5 years?
Well, 5 years is kind of the magic number, because when coaches are recruiting, and you recruit at such an early age, it's not just seniors. You're recruiting juniors and sophomores, and usually the first question that either the recruit or mom and dad ask is, will you be there throughout the career of my son or my daughter? And if a coach can say, well, I've got a 5-year contract, so it's looking good that I'll be there for the 4 or 5 years that your son or daughter is in our program, that answers that question extremely well.
You've been there now since 2010. What is it about Old Dominion University that makes it stand out from other colleges?
Well, I think it's the people. We have great people, faculty, administration, staff. They've just got a great can-do attitude, very supportive of one another. It was, as they say in business, it's about location, location, location. We've got a great campus location in a great neighborhood of Norfolk, right near the Atlantic Ocean, 17 miles away, a vibrant downtown Norfolk community, Hampton Roads with 1.5 million supporters around us. So we've got a really great location that we can sell that attracts outstanding individuals, whether they're coaches, faculty, administration, students who want to be a part of a growing metropolitan university like ODU. And we've got great partnerships with the businesses and the medical field and every industry around our area. So we've got a very vibrant, dynamic institution, and people are starting to recognize that in greater volume. And it helps us when we're trying to recruit athletes, coaches, students, and the like.
Oftentimes, I've seen it happen where many athletic directors rush to try to fill a position. You seem to have a great strategy, but not only that, I am often always surprised of your patience. You do not seem to panic. You seem to wait when everybody else is pushing the button. What is it that gives you that pause and the confidence to wait for things to develop?
Maybe I don't have a plan. I don't know. Sometimes it's better get lucky. But no, I think it's important to not rush, like some schools feel the need to quickly rush to a decision and get a position filled. I think Coach Jones is a prime example. We were taking our time. We knew in February that we were going to be in a coaching search, but we waited almost through the end of March Madness until we hired Jeff Jones, and he actually came forward to us pretty late in the process and expressed his level of interest. So, had we been quick and hurried and arrived at a decision, we would have missed out on Coach Jones. So I think every individual search is different. If you know you've got an internal candidate whom you like, then perhaps you wrap those up very quickly. But otherwise, I think it's important to wait and let individuals kind of notify you of their interest, because not everybody's going to send in their resume right away or have someone contact you. They're going to really look at you for a little bit before they decide if that's the program they want to try and pursue. And you always want someone who wants to be part of your program, not someone you're trying to talk to join you from another program.
Okay, Dr. Wood, I got about 70 seconds. This is the part of the show where I call rapid fire. I'll ask you a word, and you give me a quick response. How's that? You ready?
Ready.
Okay, CAA.
Nice league, really helped Old Dominion grow, and can't thank them enough for all the great memories.
USA Conference.
The future of ODU, exciting, cutting edge, metropolitan location, great TV package, national brand, great visibility.
Old Dominion University.
Best days still ahead, vibrant, hard charging, lots of energy, great fan support, great academic institution, great community partner.
Your favorite sport?
I can't answer that. I've got 18. The 18 that we field at ODU.
Your favorite book?
Favorite book? I'm into Harlan Coben, who's a writer from New Jersey, or anything that John Grisham writes.
And finally, your favorite movie?
Favorite movie? I like 42, the Jackie Robinson story. That was really powerful in my mind.
Dr. Wood, I know that you're a man that spends a lot of time staying busy, and I really appreciate you taking time out to join me here on A Kind Voice on Sports. This has been a treat for our listeners, and I wish you much more success in the coming days, months, and the years ahead at Old Dominion University. I appreciate you stopping by.
Well, thanks, Demetrius. You're a good friend, and we appreciate all you've done and all you continue to do for ODU Athletics, and thank you for having me on.
All right, Dr. Camden Wood Selig from Old Dominion University, the athletic director out there in Norfolk, Virginia. It has been a great time with the Doctor of Athletics. Well, folks, you can tune in next week at the same time at 7 p.m. and listen to A Kind Voice on Sports. This is your host, Demetrius Means, saying for Dr. Wood Selig, until next time, take care of yourself because I'd rather be talking to you than about you. You have been listening to A Kind Voice on Sports.
Someone else can be just what you need to hear. With a kind voice, a few kind words, an open ear for when you need to be heard, a warm heart. You can make that choice to find a kind voice. Yes, we're different, look at you and me. Both have questions, both have answers, both have needs. And though most likely we will often disagree, we can just keep talking, maybe find that we can be a kind voice, a few kind words, an open ear for when you need to be heard, a warm heart. We can make that choice to be a kind voice. There's nothing wrong with reaching out when you need. I'll be there for you and maybe you can be for me. With a kind voice, a few kind words, an open ear for when you need to be heard, a warm heart. We can make that choice to be a kind voice, a few kind words, an open ear for when you need to be heard, warm heart, we can
choice to be a kind